Hello, hello, and welcome to episode 218 of the Compassionate Cucumbers podcast. I'm Christine.
And I'm Sam.
Here's what's coming up in today's show. In this week's Y-Files, we revisit the case of a sandwich that was hurled at ICE agents and look at the legal comparisons between his actions and animal rights rescuers' actions in the court of law. How do they compare?
In our Noteworthy segment, North Carolina set up a system to field complaints about industrialized farming. We'll let you know how it's working, or not working.
Right. And in our main topic, we have updates on the state of highly pathogenic avian influenza, otherwise known as the bird flu. Why isn't our government or mainstream media talking about it? But before we get into all of that, what have we been up to?
Well, I just got to say, it's spring break.
Yay, spring break.
Yay, spring break.
So we're headed to the beach.
No.
Get our bikinis.
God, no.
Get a Mai Tai.
No.
We're doing none of those things.
None of those things. Absolutely none of those things.
It's snowy here, which is so strange because 2 days ago it was almost 70 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Then yesterday we got a blizzard. We had the most terrible windstorm.
It was crazy.
Which is why we're coming to you a day late, because we got we've lived here, almost 20 years now.
Yes, close to.
And it's usually windy where we live because we're near one of the Great Lakes.
Yeah.
But this was the most and loudest wind I have ever experienced here.
Yeah, it's certainly up there.
Yeah, 75-mile-an-hour gusts, which is almost hurricane force.
Yeah.
It was so loud. We couldn't sleep.
Nope.
It was scary. The power kept going on and off and off and on. I mean, I'm amazed that we didn't lose power for the entire night because...
Yeah, I was really surprised by that too.
Yeah.
So, rock on to our electrical services.
Yeah. Rock on indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. So at least we had heat.
We did.
Wow, it was something. So anyway, when we normally record on Mondays, we were both so tired.
Yes.
And, just assessing the damage and picking up garbage cans, and there's lots of branches down and stuff like that. So I want to be energized and stuff when we record.
Sure.
And we weren't feeling it.
No, not so much.
Yes. Also, full disclosure, I was awaiting the results from my colonoscopy screening.
Yes.
I had a biopsy taken, and I was very nervous about that.
Yes.
And it was good news.
That's right. Everything completely benign.
Good news. Benign. So that was great.
Yes, but she was a bit of a basket case for most of the morning.
It would not have been a good episode if we'd recorded that day.
No, it really wouldn't.
Tired and anxious, and these are the things you don't want when you're recording an episode.
This is true.
Yeah, but on a happier note, Sunday we went to one of our favorite places, the Mad Mex.
We did.
Yes.
We went and had some Mad Mex.
Yes, to celebrate my sister's birthday, which was at the end of February. This was the first time we could all get together, but we love Mad Mex. And for the first time, Sam got what they call the big burrito.
Yeah, I don't know what prompted this.
Well, we hadn't eaten.
Well, I suppose that's true.
And it was 2:30
It was 2:30 in the afternoon. We hadn't eaten anything. So we were both really, really hungry.
We were.
And I'm like, do I just get my usual, the tofu tacos?
Yeah.
Or, they also have a very nice Southwestern bowl that I frequently get. But I was like, no, I want to try something different. And I'm feeling like a burrito. Well, they have this burrito called the Big Burrito. And usually it's served with chicken and steak. But I, of course, had them replace all of that with their crispy tofu.
Yeah, you can choose your protein.
Yes. And they put that in a nice kind of hot sauce. And inside the burrito, instead of rice or rice and beans, they actually put waffle fries.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy. But you see, the thing is, sometimes Christine will make us a breakfast burrito or some kind of wrap, and we'll put potatoes on the inside of said burrito.
Yeah.
It's a genius thing.
It is.
And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to have to try this. So I basically had a tofu and waffle fry burrito. With hot sauce and then guacamole and vegan sour cream and some cheese and all the things.
Yeah. Needless to say, we got more than one meal, both of us, out of our food.
Yes.
Because I got one of their regular size burritos, which are already pretty big, and I only ate half of it.
Right. And I
Yeah.
only ate about half of the big burrito. Now,
Yeah.
to be fair, the big burrito was not actually that much bigger than their regular burritos.
It's a little taller.
It was a little taller.
It's a
and
little-
I think that's because of the fries, because the fries
Yeah.
don't smush in the same way that rice
does.
will smush. You know, you can't get a waffle fry in the crevices
Right.
between pieces of tofu. Like, you just can't do that.
Yeah.
So, but also it was piled with more stuff. So on
Yeah.
the top of the burrito, there was guacamole and sour cream and pico de gallo and lettuce and tomato and all kinds of wonderful things.
Yeah,
So-
they do put a lot of there's no other veggies in that burrito.
Oh, corn.
Oh, there's corn.
There's corn. There's
so it's corn, waffle fries, and tofu.
cheese.
Vegan
vegan
cheese. Yeah,
and
they use
tofu.
BioLife, I think.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was really good.
yeah, mine was good
I
too.
really enjoyed it.
I got the fajita burrito.
The fajita burrito.
Yeah, and just swapped out the protein for tofu. It was really good.
Yep, I've done that many a
Yeah.
time.
So it was just like fajita style onions and peppers and
Yep.
stuff, and some rice and beans, and their tofu, which is usually pretty awesome.
Yep.
So yeah, mine was really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So another successful trip to Mad Max.
Yeah, and then we went to my nephew's and his wives for wife's house. He doesn't have multiple wives.
We went to Trey and Savannah's house.
For cake, and Trey made a vegan, gluten-free 3-tiered chocolate cake
Yes, he did.
with raspberry
Jam.
and
a buttercream
vegan
icing.
buttercream. And he's never made a cake like that before.
Yeah.
It turned out fabulous.
It did. It turned
Yeah.
out really, really well. My
Yeah.
only issue with the cake, well, I mean, a couple of things, and we talked about, because Trey wanted feedback.
Yes, he asked for some
He asked for feedback.
constructive criticism.
And so, first of all, you know, gluten-free cakes can be a little bit on the dry side. They
Yeah.
just don't retain moisture in the way that, you know, a traditional flour does.
Yeah.
Gluten-free flour doesn't tend to do that. So it was a little dry and a little dense. My only thing with it was one of the binders in the recipe was banana. And I love banana. Like, love banana. Like, give me a good banana bread or banana walnut muffin any day. But banana is like the one fruit flavor that will overpower everything else.
Yeah, you could taste the banana.
And so you could really taste the banana. Like,
Yeah. So
to
it was
me,
like banana chocolate cake.
right. It
Yeah.
was more of a banana forward cake than it was a chocolate forward cake.
Yeah.
So for me, I probably would have, you know, like toned down the banana.
Yeah, I mean, he just used a recipe, so he followed the
Yeah.
recipe.
Oh, yeah.
Which called for not just banana, but also applesauce.
Yeah. And I love applesauce as
Yeah.
a binder for cakes because it helps retain moisture
Yeah.
within the mix, but also the flavor just kind of disappears into
Yes.
whatever the flavor of the cake
It
or
does,
the bread.
especially if
is.
it's chocolate, it will overpower it. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Anyway, that was delicious.
It was.
And we played some games. We had a good time.
We did. It was a very
Hey,
nice day.
Today is St. Patrick's Day.
It
and
is.
I always know that Sam has some choice words about St. Patrick on St. Patrick's Day, being a full-fledged Irish woman.
I am indeed a fully fledged Irish person. The words are Beanach Tina Félia Páirigagit,
There you go.
which is, of course, Happy St. Patrick's Day in Gaelic.
But
So,
what did you call St. Patrick the other day?
Oh, I called.
Backstabbing Roman.
No, I called him an infiltrating Roman murderer.
You're right.
Yes. Because St. Patrick was not a good guy.
Yeah.
He really wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing about how there are no snakes the length and breadth of Ireland, which is apparently true.
But the snakes are a metaphor, right?
The snakes are a metaphor for the
For-
serpents of wisdom, which were a symbol of the Druidic,
So he was
matriarchal
driving
kind of
out the
faith.
Druids.
He was
is what
driving out the
doing.
Druids.
Okay.
Yeah, he was Christianizing Ireland, and so
Right.
he wasn't Irish. He was Roman.
No, he
His
was
name
a colonizer.
Patricius. Yes, and so he was a colonizing, infiltrating, murdering
Roman dude.
Roman dude. Yeah. long before
Yeah.
the Italian and Portuguese colonizing evil dudes made their way
Yeah.
over here.
So March is actually the month of murdering Roman dudes, because the 15th is the Ides of March.
Yes.
Which is when Caesar was stabbed.
was stabbed, yes,
Right?
by other murdering Roman dudes.
Right. Brutus.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, Cassius.
Cassius.
Yeah. Well, a whole bunch of them, actually. You know,
Yeah.
it was basically the
was
entire Senate.
It was a plot.
It was. Yes.
Anywho.
So it is the month. March is the month of Roman murderers.
Murderous Romans.
All right. Sweet.
Those are my people.
Indeed. You're Sicilian.
It's true. We had nothing to do with it. Anyway, that's what we've been up to.
It is.
So let's just jump into the episode. Here is this week's Why Files. That's right. You might be asking yourself what a turkey sandwich hurler has to do with chicken rescuers, okay? This comes to us from The Verdict, which is a legal analysis website. The turkey sandwich hurler's acquittal and the chicken rescuer's conviction. Now, this happened back in November. I don't know if you remember that this guy threw a turkey sub at an ICE agent and was arrested for it and charged. But he was acquitted. So this says last week's acquittal of Sandwich Guy, Sean Dunn, and the recent conviction of animal rights activist Zoe Rosenberg form an arresting juxtaposition. Both defendants essentially conceded the fact of the crimes for which they were charged. Dunn hurled a Subway sandwich made from slaughtered turkey parts at Customs and Border Patrol agent Gregory Larimore in protest of President Donald Trump's deployment of federal forces in the District of Columbia. Rosenberg rescued 4 chickens from the Petaluma Poultry Slaughterhouse in Sonoma County, California. Dunn was caught on video. Rosenberg, a member of Direct Action Everywhere, was carrying out an open rescue in which she looked into the camera and explained her actions as she engaged in them. Dunn's defense team argued that the sandwich he tossed caused no harm. Rosenberg's lawyer sought to make the same point, indeed, going further to argue that her actions averted harm to the chickens she saved from the suffering they were enduring and their imminent fate. And yet Dunn was acquitted, while Rosenberg was convicted and potentially faces a multi-year sentence. What explains the difference? It's easy to say these were different cases on opposite sides of the country, and that's certainly true, but that's hardly the whole story. Start with Dunn. After the grand jury refused to indict him on felony charges, he was tried for a misdemeanor. His trial unfolded as a small theater piece featuring video of the tossed sandwich striking Larimore in his bulletproof and apparently sandwich-proof vest. Lawyers, judge, and jury scrutinized his uniform and his reaction to the incident. The defense framed the toss as symbolic political protest, a harmless gesture aimed at challenging the Trump administration's unnecessary interference in D.C. life. The jurors either concluded that the particular act of sandwich throwing was effectively not an assault or engaged in jury nullification. Contrast Rosenberg. Before the trial, the judge rejected her lawyer's request to let her present a necessity defense, evidence and a legal instruction that would have allowed the jury to consider whether the unlawful act was justified to avoid a significant evil. The judge concluded that under California law, the defense is available only where the harm the defendant sought to avert is to humans, a dubious conclusion under the key precedents. Without Rosenberg's evidence relevant to a necessity defense, her trial focused on intent, trespass, and property protection narratives crafted by the prosecutors. The jury deliberated only a few hours before returning guilty verdicts, which is not surprising given that Rosenberg admitted the elements of the crime charged. It is relatively easy to understand Dunn's acquittal. The whole idea of throwing a sandwich as a protest is comical. Agent Larimore's not very credible testimony that the sandwich exploded all over him and that he could smell the onions and mustard likely had the opposite of their intended effect, underscoring the triviality of the incident, not its seriousness. Meanwhile, even if the particular jurors were unaware that Jeanine Pirro's efforts to make an example of Dunn, they surely were aware of the larger political context. Rosenberg's conviction is also easy to explain, though not to justify. The defense wanted to show jurors the awful conditions of the chickens at Petaluma. However, in addition to rejecting the necessity defense, the trial judge also limited the cruelty evidence that could be shown to the jury. As a result, Rosenberg's jury did not see her as engaged in an act of moral courage. They saw her as a trespasser and a thief. There's also a geographical dimension to the cases. Dunn was tried before a jury of D.C. residents. Even many such people who have concerns about crime resent the way in which the Trump administration has used the district for political purposes. By contrast, Rosenberg, a UC Berkeley student, went before a jury drawn from rural communities that view animal agriculture as a part of normal life. Yet the unfortunate truth is that if Rosenberg had been tried just about anywhere in America, a randomly selected jury would likely have seen animal agriculture as normal because the vast majority of Americans routinely eat chicken, turkey, and other animal products that come from Petaluma and similar facilities. Rosenberg's jurors didn't hear about the cruelty inflicted on the chickens she rescued, and most Americans don't want to know about the cruelty that makes possible the meals they choose to eat. That is not to say that the jurors can never be reached. In 2022, a Utah jury acquitted Wayne Sung and Paul Picklesheimer on charges of burglary and theft arising out of their open rescue of piglets, even though in that case as well the judge excluded the graphic evidence of cruel treatment of the animals. But such victories are hardly guaranteed. In 2023, Sung was convicted and sent to jail for rescuing chickens and ducks from the same poultry slaughterhouse where Rosenberg conducted her rescue. And just an aside, Wayne Sung has also just been convicted of rescuing beagles from a testing facility. And he and 4 other advocates that rescued some beagle puppies are now serving time awaiting trial. So just an aside.
Go Wayne.
Yeah.
Is all I have to say.
Finally, consider both the sandwich throwing and the chicken rescue through a civil disobedience lens in the tradition of Thoreau, Gandhi, and King, each of whom was at some point imprisoned for taking a moral stand. It is sometimes said that anyone who commits a crime as an act of civil disobedience should be prepared to accept the punishment. Yet while it is certainly true that anyone contemplating lawbreaking as civil disobedience would be prudent to weigh the possibility of incarceration in deciding what to do, it does not follow that the larger society must punish those who break the law to serve what the lawbreakers regard as a greater good. Where we agree with the ends served by the nonviolent lawbreaking, we, prosecutors, judge, and juries must be justified in showing mercy. The likely fact that a D.C. jury was willing to engage in its own act of civil disobedience by nullifying the law rather than ratifying Trump's authoritarian militarization of local law enforcement is worth celebrating. The fact that a California judge and jury were unwilling to see the cruelty that goes into the supplying of Americans with poultry products, whether for eating or throwing, shows the limits of what courts can do to fight injustice when the people involved in an adjudication routinely participate in the very injustice being challenged. So that's what throwing a turkey sandwich has to do with rescuing chickens.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the parallels.
Are you?
I am.
Yes.
I absolutely am.
Yeah.
And what frustrates me here is I actually have no problem with the guy who threw the turkey sandwich being acquitted. That does not bug me at all.
Right.
That's absolutely fine.
No,
in fact,
I think he should have been.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm actually really grateful to the couple of chuckles that this article gave me.
Sure.
It's a little bit of levity is always nice.
Yes.
So yes, I agree that the jury selection in the California case was problematic, that, there should have been a bit more focus on the potential for bias in that particular case. I mean, already there are systems set up within the courts to avoid racial bias or gender bias or things like that.
Yeah.
But clearly there's no mechanism for avoiding bias of this kind.
Right.
Like, okay, we're looking at animal agriculture from a different lens, through that of this woman who was doing an open rescue. If all of the jurors are then pro animal ag, she's got no chance. That's not the equivalent
really
of a fair trial.
Yeah, it's not really a jury of your peers.
No, definitely
in
not.
that case. Yeah.
Nor do I believe that the jury should be stacked with people who believe the same thing that she does. I just think there needs to be a healthy mix.
Yeah.
Exactly, where there can be reasonable and thoughtful debate.
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised that her lawyers didn't make a case for that, or maybe they did and it's just not mentioned in this article.
Yes.
But yeah, she definitely did not get a fair trial given the geography of where she was.
Right.
Yeah.
It also bugs me just a little bit that, the courts are spending time on these relatively small types of cases while seemingly completely ignoring the massive scale of illegal actions that are being taken on the daily
Yeah.
by our federal government.
I know. It's insane.
Yeah.
People know that wealthy people do not seem to have to abide by the same legal system that everyday people do. But still, yeah, the level of the crimes being committed by people involved in our very government,
Yeah.
in comparison to rescuing 4 chickens from a poultry facility, it's you can't compare the two.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So I support Mr. Dunn in his turkey sandwich throwing, though I wish the sandwich had not been made of turkey.
Sure. Yes, I would hope that Mr. Dunn, next time he goes to Subway, get the vegetarians
That's
up.
right. And throw away. Enjoy.
Yep.
And Ms. Rosenberg, I am 100% in support of your open rescue activities. May you carry on, and may your sentence, should there be one, be light.
Yeah, and it is unfortunate that in these cases that the jury is not allowed to see the reasoning behind her crimes.
That is also problematic.
It just seems so unfair that they can't mention the cruelty that she was trying to save these animals from. Because I'm sure she took tons of video, or pictures.
I'm sure.
To document the conditions in that facility. And none of it was able to be exposed in court, which is it's just totally unfair in my opinion.
It is.
Should we move on to our noteworthy segment?
Let's do that. North Carolina created complaint systems for its industrialized farms. Problem is, they don't work very well.
Yeah, big surprise.
Complaints become part of the record only if a violation is found, but the state has only 14 inspectors for thousands of hog, poultry, and cattle farms known as concentrated animal feeding operations, or CAFOs. Brenda Schwab stopped her 16-year-old Ford pickup truck on Gaddy's Mill Road and pointed to a chocolate-colored ridge about 30 feet long and 5 feet high, resting in a field and close to the road. A cold downpour had turned the air clammy. It smelled like a rancid potpourri seeping through the truck windows, singeing the occupants' sinuses and glomming onto their raincoats. The dark ridges contained chicken feces intended to be spread on Robeson County pastures as fertilizer. Officials at the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality call this waste dry litter because it is mixed with sawdust and bedding. Poultry farms in North Carolina that use this method of disposal don't have to obtain a state permit to operate. Schwab is in her 70s with short gray hair and works as a healthcare consultant. She lives 1.5 miles downstream and downwind of 1 million animals raised on concentrated animal feeding operations, known as CAFOs, in southern Robeson County. Shoe Heel Creek runs past the CAFOs and through the back half of Schwab's 73-acre property before entering South Carolina. She is worried about the water quality in the creek and nearby swamps. Farmers legally spray and spread tons of poultry and hog waste from CAFOs onto their fields as fertilizer, which can seep into groundwater and waterways. She said she has called several state agencies, including DEQ, to report her concerns, including seeing children and their families fishing in the creek. "I don't feel like anyone is listening to me," Schwab said. Schwab's experience is common. It illustrates the limitations of legal settlements, which included an improved complaint system that DEQ has forged with environmental and civil rights groups over the past 9 years. Environmental advocates say the complaint system has failed to adequately curb water pollution from industrialized farms, leaving contamination from leaking hog lagoons and spray fields and mounds of poultry waste lingering in fields past the statutory 15-day deadline for removal. DEQ updated its complaint system as part of a 2017 settlement with environmental groups over allegations the agency failed to adequately investigate complaints related to swine CAFOs. The agreement also applied to industrialized poultry farms. It required the agency to give complainants the option of remaining anonymous and to visit the CAFO within 5 days unless there is an immediate threat to human health or the environment. A separate civil rights settlement reached in 2018 between DEQ and environmental and civil rights advocates contained several provisions that the agency fulfilled. However, one key provision was never enacted. The agreement required DEQ to draft a violation point system for swine CAFOs, which would have assessed demerits to farms based on the severity and frequency of willful violations. Ultimately, DEQ would have had the authority to revoke a farm's permit. DEQ completed the draft in 2020 but never presented it to the State Environmental Management Commission for consideration, according to meeting minutes. A DEQ spokesperson told Inside Climate News that because of agency turnover, particular staff involved with that process and communicating with the EMC are no longer with the agency.
Well, that's convenient.
The state's 2025 Farm Act would eliminate the point system. The Senate passed the bill, but it hasn't yet cleared the House. Between November 2018 and the end of 2025, DEQ investigated at least 568 complaints about CAFOs, according to summaries posted on its website. The summary for the final quarter of 2024 was missing. DEQ found violations in about 1 in 5 of those investigations. To the extent that the information is available about how many complaints were filed and how many resulted in violations, I think that has worked, said Blakely Hildebrand, a senior attorney with the Southern Environmental Law Center. But I think that information is very limited in its utility. A state law passed in 2014 mandated details of complaint-driven investigations must remain secret unless inspectors find a violation based on the complaint. So there is no way for environmental advocates to review the adequacy of investigations that gave CAFOs a clean bill of health. The numbers speak to the continued challenge the DEQ has in inspecting and investigating complaints, and then in enforcement because of their ongoing resource constraints, Hildebrand said. I think the blame needs to be placed on the legislature, not necessarily on DEQ, although certainly DEQ plays a role in how they're allocating resources. But it is a problematic system. The substance of the complaints is still confidential, which I don't think serves the purpose of increasing transparency around this industry, or in giving the public the ability to really evaluate whether DEQ is doing its due diligence with these facilities when they go out and inspect. When an environmental advocate or private resident documents a complaint, even with time-stamped photos and water quality testing by an EPA-certified lab, an agency inspector must independently witness and verify it before pursuing a violation. A lack of staff and state funding constrains DEQ's ability to hold the CAFOs accountable, the agency says. There are just 14 people to inspect the 2,200 swine CAFOs, 218 cattle operations, and the 18 poultry farms that have a permit to use a wet litter disposal system, according to agency data. No one at DEQ routinely inspects poultry farms that use the dry litter disposal method because those operations aren't required to have a permit. Under state law, locations of the dry litter poultry farms are secret, so it's difficult to know precisely how many there are. Several Democratic lawmakers introduced a bill in 2023 to require dry litter poultry CAFOs to obtain a permit. The bill's sponsors estimated there were 4,800 farms and more than 500 million poultry in North Carolina. The legislation never got a committee hearing. Those 14 employees respond to complaints as well, according to a DEQ spokesman, and they split their time among many programs. So there are actually fewer full-time equivalent positions assigned solely to CAFO inspections and complaints. We've submitted plenty of complaints, but I don't know that they've ever been followed up on in the form of a field visit, Noise Riverkeeper Samantha Kropp said. Unfortunately, it takes a certain degree of persistence from the complainant to ensure that an investigation is properly opened, that a field visit occurs, and that all of the necessary follow-up happens.
I think that the so-called confidentiality and the secretiveness of the DEQ is not doing any favors.
No, definitely
this.
not. No. Transparency is essential.
I know. If there's no way that you can know if your complaints were followed up on and if actual wrongdoing was found and how it was acknowledged, what is the point? And why do they only have 14 inspectors for that many farms?
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Yes.
And what this particular article doesn't mention, because this is from Inside Climate News, so they're more focused on the climate repercussions of what's going on here, is that those, what they call dry litter producers, also sell their product to pork farms and feed it to pigs that are being raised for slaughter.
Right.
And you heard what it is. It's feces from poultry farms mixed in with
sawdust
and bedding from the poultry farms.
Yeah.
If that's not a catastrophe waiting to happen, I don't know what is.
I'm with you.
Yep. I mean, talk about spreading of disease or whatnot.
Yeah.
Through feeding. And yes, it is getting into their groundwater and it is getting into the creeks and waterways in the area of these farms. And the fact that those tests, that people can take water tests and people can take photos, that those have to be then independently redone by someone within the DEQ.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
Well, it's phenomenally inefficient.
Yeah. And it almost borders on like self-regulation if they're not.
Well, certainly. I mean, I would argue it doesn't even border. It's crossed the line of negligence for sure, in my personal opinion. But
yeah.
Let us continue.
Okay. Continue. Sorry.
Schwab is from Monroe, Louisiana, where her parents raised a few hogs on pasture, including her favorite, Sammy, who amused the family one day when he overindulged on Little Debbie snack cakes and fell into a stupor. Why were they allowing him to eat Little Debbie snack cakes?
That's a problem.
Yeah,
I mean, I know pigs will eat just about anything.
They will. As a child, she loved the family bully, and was heartbroken to find him on her dinner plate. My dad told me that's how we were able to eat, she said. After Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Schwab left Louisiana. A year and a half ago, she bought her farm near Roland, the back half of which is in wetlands. In front, she raises 40 free-range chickens in her yard, including a rooster with a bad leg named Miracle. She co-founded the Eighth Leaf Project, which curates and shares research about medicinal plants, including the grape mullein, which thrives on her property. Schwab drove down Townsendville Road past a farm with 40 poultry barns, where as many as 900,000 chickens bound for the Mountaire slaughterhouse are raised each year. Across the road, up to 12,595 hogs are jammed into barns at a CAFO owned by Smithfield Foods. She passed several fields with mounds of feces. The waste can legally sit there for up to 15 days, but without adequate staffing, the provision is difficult for DEQ to enforce. If inspectors receive a complaint and arrive after the 15th day, but the waste is spread, then the agency can't, under its policy, prove a violation occurred. A DEQ spokesman said the agency investigates the complaints it receives, and time is a factor in identifying violations. The sooner detailed information is relayed to our regional offices, the higher the chance conditions at inspection match what a complainant observes. Jeff Curry is the lumber river keeper and monitors water quality and pollution sources in Robeson County. Several years ago, he toured parts of the county with members of the DEQ Environmental Justice Committee, an appointed board of advocates, scientists, and community members. They stopped at the Mountaire slaughterhouse in Maxton, where the company was legally spraying waste on a field. But the wind was blowing the waste across the road, he said, which is a violation. I got out to take photographs, Curry recalled, and one person in the back seat of their car is feeling sick and heaving, and I'm nauseous. The wind shifted and the waste hit Curry in the face as he took pictures. He sent the evidence to DEQ. I told them that members of that committee saw it, he said, but never received a response. A DEQ spokesman told Inside Climate News that the agency's violation notices or other enforcement actions are based on the evidence encountered by staff when they visit a site, either as a result of a complaint or as part of a routine inspection. Larry Baldwin, coordinator for the Waterkeeper Alliance's Pure Farms, Pure Waters campaign, used to fly over eastern North Carolina in a small plane to document poultry waste mounds, track how long they had sat in the fields, and publicize the findings. But because of the several-day lag between reporting potential violations to DEQ and an inspector arriving on site, Curry and Baldwin have reduced their surveillance. We had riverkeepers flying all over the state, and I can't even tell you how many violations we would have submitted, Baldwin said. But we've kind of stopped with aerial documentation because what the hell difference does it make? Around 8 o'clock one morning in 2008, Devin Hall drove past a swine CAFO in Duplin County, where the grower was spraying waste on fields in the rain, a violation of the operations permit. Hall said he called DEQ and spoke with someone about the incident and emphasized the complaint was to be kept anonymous. Hall's anonymity was crucial. He is the co-founder and executive director of REACH, an environmental and civil rights group that monitors CAFOs in Duplin County. As a result of his activism, Hall said, he has been trailed in grocery stores and nearly run off the road. Later that afternoon, Hall said he received a call from a number he did not recognize. Hall picked up the phone. "Hello? Hello, who is this?" a man asked. "Who are you?" Hall responded. "You called me." Finally, Hall said the man told him the reason for his call. "Someone with this number called and reported me this morning." Hall said he talked with the man, who turned out to be the CAFO owner, for a few more minutes, then called DEQ and eventually spoke with the person who had taken his complaint. "I told you it was anonymous," Hall said. "It wasn't me," the DEQ employee reportedly said. "We gave the information to my supervisor and he gave it to the inspector." DEQ sent Hall a letter of apology. "This is why people don't call and report violations," Hall said. "They live in the community with the contract grower and that's what they'd be faced with." A DEQ spokesperson said the agency doesn't record identifying information of people who wish to remain anonymous, whether they call or use an online anonymous comment tool. DEQ doesn't reveal the source of complaints in notices of violation or civil penalty documents, the spokesman said, though the nature of the complaint is subject to the Public Records Act. Schwab continued driving through southern Robeson County in a downpour. She wondered where all the water from the farm ditches that are supposed to contain it was going. She had asked DEQ to test the water in Shoeheel Creek that runs through her property, but she said an official told her the agency didn't have the resources to do so. Data gathered from DEQ's monitoring station at the creek's headwaters in 2024, about 25 miles upstream of Schwab's home, showed no exceedances of nitrogen, phosphorus, or E. coli. More recent data is under review, according to an agency spokesperson. When Schwab tested the water and soil from the banks, she found that contaminants in the creek water were well below state standards and guidelines. But the banks contained high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus, likely accumulated over years of rising and falling water. After her initial trip around the county, Schwab checked the waste piles again later that week. The ridge of feces on Gaddy's Mill Road was still there after at least 5 days, with 10 more remaining before the deadline to remove it. As she sampled water from the canals and swamps, it began to rain again.
So it seems like another case of the organization that is charged with monitoring what's going on with the CAFOs in this state they're dropping the ball. And in the case of Mr. Hall's complaint, it seems that somebody in there is actually leaking information to CAFO owners about who's complaining about them.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem here is that clearly this is a state organization.
Yeah.
And the state is not allocating the necessary funding to the organization
Yeah, to DEQ.
to DEQ to do the work that they have been charged to do.
Yep.
Again, that to me really just screams negligence.
Yeah, it's negligence. And what they should do is put the call out to the people that live in these areas for volunteers.
Sure.
Because I guarantee you that a lot of people, including Brenda Schwab, would be more than happy to spend a couple hours out of her day or week or month even following up on complaints.
Yeah.
And documenting what she finds.
Absolutely.
For no pay at all, because it's affecting their lives.
That's right.
So,
yeah. So, props to North Carolina for putting the system in place.
Yeah.
But do better when it comes to staffing it and funding it.
Yeah, absolutely. Do better. That reminds me of a little story.
Are you going to tell the story of Do Better?
I'm going to tell you the story of Do Better.
Okay.
A recent story of Do Better. I was volunteering at our local shelter where we volunteer. And there was a cat there who's super vocal, and he's wandering around. We let him out of his enclosure. He's wandering around the general population area, meowing and meowing and meowing. After a while, I'm like, what is this cat's name again? And I look on his little chart, Meowie. His name is Meowie. And
seriously?
Yes. And the friend that I'm volunteering with goes, Meowie, do better, whoever's doing the naming here.
Yeah.
Do better, Meowie. Anyway.
Well, I mean, we've been volunteering at that shelter for several years now.
Like 5 years.
It was pre-COVID.
Was it really?
So yeah,
Oh yeah, it was pre-COVID.
It was pre-COVID that we started.
Yeah. So at least 6 years.
So at least 6. Yeah. And it never fails. There's always a cat that comes in where they just give them the most ridiculous, uninspiring name.
Yeah.
And it's like, we want these cats to get adopted. Give them a name that's going to make people go,
oh, his name is whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like our very own Carl.
Yeah.
At the shelter, he was named Captain Carl.
Right. I think we've mentioned this. We don't know what he was the captain of.
We have no idea what he was the captain of.
But he is now just known as Carl.
He is just known as Carl or Carlito.
Carlito.
Yes. Yeah. I frequently call him Carlito. And that was part of what drew me to him was the name.
Yeah.
Now then, of course, as soon as I went to check Carlito out, we found out that, he was badly injured and he was in rough shape when he got to the shelter.
He was a mess. Yes.
He was a mess. And so, for several months, I made sure to check on him every time we were there. And, eventually we found a bond.
Yep. He formed a bond with
Formed
the
a
Carl.
bond with the Carl, and we had to bring him home.
Yeah, that's the story of Carl. But yeah, they need to do better with the naming.
They really do.
I mean, not all of them are bad, but every once in a while it's like, why? Meowie?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
And Meowie is a very large, dark ginger cat.
Mm-hmm.
There's a million other names you could have come up with.
Oh, for sure.
Yes. And I'm particularly fond of human names given to
I do like human names for cats.
Companion animals,
Yes.
So like Carl, I think we have a Doug.
There's a Doug
right now.
Yep.
Like Kevin.
Kevin is great. I think that's amazing. Yeah. Like Mike. Like that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've got Sammy.
Yeah, we have Sammy. Yep.
Obviously.
We obviously didn't name him because we wouldn't name a cat
after
Sam
one of us.
After.
No.
Yeah.
No, that would just be silly.
And Bosco also, we didn't name him either.
We did not.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yes, our Chirpy, we changed his name. He was very young when we adopted him and probably not really familiar with the name they gave him, which was Maxie.
Yeah.
And he just wasn't a Maxie.
He wasn't. And also we had a cat named Max who had left us not too terribly long before that.
Yeah.
And, we didn't want to just, reuse the name.
Right.
And so he became Chirpy.
Chirpus.
And then, I decided that we should at least pay some homage to the name that he was given.
Oh, right.
So that's when I decided to call him Chirpus Maximus.
Chirpus Maximus.
So, hey, Roman. Yeah. Again, we're with the Romans. Yeah. Although Chirpy is not a murdering Roman.
No.
He occasionally looks like he wants to murder Carl, but it's not happened, thank heavens. Yeah. And then we just decided that was way too much to say.
Yeah.
So he became Chirpus or Chirpy or Chirps or any other variations.
Yeah,
on
he
the theme.
thinks his name is Chirpy No.
He does.
Yeah.
That's what he responds to the most easily is
Yes,
Chirpy No.
Chirpy No. Anywho, we completely digressed.
We did.
But it reminded me of that. So yeah, North Carolina, DEQ, please do better.
Yes, please.
It's time now for our main topic. This week's main topic, where are we in the struggle with avian flu? Well, we have a couple of articles about some stuff that's been going on not too far from where we live, where some birds are being found dead on the shores. This particular article comes from Finger Lakes Times, and this is bird deaths hit Seneca Lake shoreline again.
For the second straight year, dead birds are washing up on Seneca Lake's shoreline. It's a fairly high number, and the cause is the same: highly pathogenic avian influenza. And like last year, authorities are urging people to keep themselves and their pets away from them. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation said Tuesday that it has collected dead birds from Seneca Lake. They were taken to Cornell University in Ithaca for testing and confirmed to have died from HPAI. The recent warmer temperatures are melting ice and allowing carcasses to wash up on shore, explained Andrea Pedrick, a spokesperson for DEC's Region 8 office in Avon, Livingston County. She noted that HPAI continues to infect birds and mammals across the U.S. and Canada, including New York State. Pedrick said the disease is carried by free-flying waterfowl and other water birds, such as ducks, geese, and shorebirds, but can infect domestic poultry, raptors, corvids, and mammals. The public should strongly consider that groups of birds found deceased are HPAI positive and should follow CDC safety protocols to reduce contact, she said. DEC advises the public to avoid any contact with sick or dead birds and mammals that may be infected with HPAI. Pedrick added that DEC's Wildlife Health Program is monitoring the spread and impact of HPAI through the state and has an online reporting tool the public can use to report suspected HPAI mortalities. There is no way to contain HPAI infection in wild birds, Pedrick noted. Be aware that the clinical signs for HPAI infection in wildlife are nonspecific and may be similar to other diseases or injuries. HPAI-infected birds may be asymptomatic or may exhibit signs of respiratory distress, sneezing or nasal discharge, lethargy, neurologic malfunction, diarrhea, weakness, or sudden death. A significant number of dead snow geese washed up on Seneca Lake shores in January 2025, and their deaths were confirmed as HPAI as well. Benjamin Klein, Associate Director of Seneca Lake Pure Waters Association, said they received reports of dead snow geese along the shores of Seneca Lake. Without testing these birds, it's impossible to say for sure what killed them, Klein said Tuesday. Still, everyone should take all required precautions around sick or dead birds, and to be sure to keep your pets away from them as well. Geneva Assistant City Manager Taylor Youngs said the city is aware of the bird deaths on the city shoreline. The city has received several calls regarding dead geese along the lakefront and at Lakefront Park, Taylor said Tuesday. Staff has communicated with the NYSDEC, which is monitoring the area and removing birds from accessible areas daily. In accordance with guidance from NYSDEC, birds that are at the shoreline or touching the water should be left in place. Youngs warned people not to touch or handle dead or sick birds and keep their pets away from carcasses or distressed wildlife, while also avoiding contact with bird droppings or areas where birds may be present. Youngs added that residents who have dead waterfowl on their property are encouraged to contact the DEC.
And if you're in New York, we will include this article and in the article are both the website for reporting and the phone number for reporting. Now, when they say there was a significant number, I'm pretty sure it was in the hundreds of dead geese.
Okay.
And here's another article that comes from the Ithaca Voice in February. Avian influenza found in dead birds across the Finger Lakes, including Tompkins County. And this is a report in the same area in Seneca County, but it's not the same event.
No.
Yeah.
It is not. Recent reports of dozens of dead snow geese in Seneca County have been linked to an outbreak of highly pathogenic avian influenza, otherwise known as bird flu, in Seneca and neighboring counties. According to the latest update from the Cornell Veterinary Health Lab on January 28th, 40 birds in the area have tested positive for the virus. We have had positive detections from local counties, Tompkins, Cayuga, Seneca, and others. Kristen Schuler, a wildlife disease ecologist with Cornell Veterinary Health Lab, wrote in an email to the Ithaca Voice. According to the Cornell Wildlife Health Lab, Tompkins County is one of the handful of counties in New York where the virus has been found in both wild and captive birds. In Tompkins County, the virus has been detected in a variety of bird species, including the Canada goose, the bald eagle, the red-tailed hawk, the lesser scaup, and the American crow. HPAI was first detected in New York State in a backyard poultry flock in Suffolk County in February 2022. Since then, it has been found in captive and wild birds and wild mammals throughout the state. HPAI is caused by a virus that is carried primarily by waterfowl and other water birds, such as ducks and geese. However, it can also infect domestic poultry and mammals. There have been cases of infected cattle in several states. The Cornell Wildlife Health Lab's latest update states that the virus was recently detected in an eastern gray squirrel in the area. The U.S. Department of Agriculture categorizes HPAI as extremely contagious and deadly to domestic poultry and can wipe out a whole flock in a matter of days. William Roge, president of the Seneca Lake Pure Waters Association, first heard of the dead flock from a member of the association's board of directors who lives on the east side of Seneca Lake. The board members' neighbors found dead geese across various lots in the area, so they reached out to Pure Waters wondering what they should do with the mounting number of carcasses. After reaching out to the Department of Environmental Conservation, they were told the DEC was aware of the outbreak and collected samples to test at Cornell University. Roach has heard anecdotal evidence of hundreds of dead geese further up and down the Seneca Lake shoreline. His main concern is the cleanup of all the dead birds, which, if left outside unaddressed, could infect other wildlife.
This isn't just something that's happening in New York. This is happening all over the country. So there's another article that came out of Wisconsin, from Wisconsin Public Radio, that talks about bird flu hitting a Wisconsin poultry farm.
And we should say, again. We've seen this before.
Again.
Bird flu, again, hits Wisconsin poultry farms. 2 large-scale commercial poultry farms in southeastern Wisconsin have been hit with avian flu, each with roughly 1.5 million birds that will be culled.
1.5. Now, take into consideration that those 1.5 million birds would have died otherwise to become meat.
True.
But it's just the fact that we don't hear about this, the fact that people don't go, maybe we shouldn't keep 1.5 million birds all in the same place.
Yeah.
That's what angers me so much,
of course,
about the whole bird flu situation.
Yes. On Friday, the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, or DATCP, reported the first case of avian influenza in Walworth County since the highly contagious virus started affecting farms in 2022. The state also reported the disease in Jefferson County. It's the second commercial poultry farm hit in that county this year, and the 4th confirmed case in the state in just over a week. We've seen this before, so it's not entirely new, said Ron Keene, University of Wisconsin-Madison's poultry specialist, about the size of the latest confirmed cases. But it's a pretty large percentage of our egg production in the state, so I think from that aspect it's noteworthy. Avian flu outbreaks have been one of the drivers of past record high egg prices for American consumers. Keene said the rapid-fire cases so far don't necessarily indicate a more active season of avian flu this spring. The virus has continued to circulate in wild birds since 2022, leading to sporadic outbreaks at farms in Wisconsin and across the country. Keene said that's likely to continue this year, but state officials will also be looking for possible links between the 3 cases. DATCP declined WPR's request for an interview Friday on the latest outbreaks.
That's interesting. Why would they decline?
Well, I mean, that seems to be kind of par for the course.
Yeah, but the DATCP is supposed to be monitoring and reporting on this.
Yes.
And they're declining to report on it.
Yes.
It's insane.
Either they don't have enough information to report, or the information that they have to report is not the kind of information that they want to report.
Yeah, they don't want to share it because they don't want to affect the profits of the people who raise animals for profit.
Yes. In Jefferson County, which has had a total of 6 avian flu cases in the last 4 years, one of the farms that is currently responding to an outbreak was also hit by the virus in 2025, according to County Health Director Elizabeth McGeary. She said responding to the outbreak last year and overseeing the safe culling and disposal of infected birds put a strain on county and local resources. It also impacted nearby residents and created potential public health and environmental concerns. The response scale was huge, McGeary said. There were millions of birds. There were a lot of different transport volumes and issues. The composting footprint was really enormous, and it required substantial local government time and coordination. McGeary and the Jefferson County Board of Health recently sent a letter to state lawmakers asking for regulatory changes and additional resources for avian flu response, calling for the state to move toward a more unified response to the repeated outbreaks. You know, what I would much rather see is an end to the practices that make these outbreaks highly probable in the first place.
Right. If we didn't have 1.5 billion birds, like I said.
Okay, it was 1.5 million.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Not billion.
Sorry, I meant million. If we didn't have 1.5 million birds all stacked up in a barn situation, yeah, there wouldn't be this cost.
Indeed. Rural communities rely on private wells, and this large-scale composting and disposal really increases our population to potentially be at risk for contaminated water, said McGeary, adding that requiring farms to identify possible compost locations before an outbreak could also help protect public health. Great. Identify compost locations. It still doesn't go to the source.
Right. Stop the problem at the source. Of course, if they're culling all these birds and then they're composting them into the ground near waterways,
yes,
of course it's going to affect health, the health of the animals and the health of the people involved in the area.
Keene said poultry producers are also growing frustrated by a lack of solutions in this new era of avian flu response. There's going to have to be more work on vaccinations, which is a big international political issue, he said. I think that is one of the big frustrations for the poultry industry. International trade restrictions on vaccinated poultry have made the federal government and some American poultry producers hesitant about a vaccine rollout. But some countries, including France and Britain, are moving toward vaccinating birds against the disease.
Again, we wouldn't have to vaccinate all these birds if they weren't being held.
That's right. If the conditions weren't such that it made outbreaks of avian flu inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just a little update, just so that you know, avian flu didn't go away, even though that's what our government wants you to believe.
Yes, it has not vanished.
Yes.
Quite the opposite.
Yeah, and I think that people who are eating chickens should be really concerned. I don't think you could safely say 100% that some of the infected birds aren't getting through into the meat industry.
I mean, it's really hard to imagine that they catch every single instance.
Yeah. It's scary.
It is.
And, cows are also now
yes
being reported as having it, and they will keep all of this really quiet.
That's right. We already know that pigs have fallen subject to avian flu as well. So, it's jumped the species barrier.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, of course, if squirrels and other mammals can get it, of course, cows and pigs and other animals that are being forced into our food system, they're vulnerable.
Yes.
And more needs to be said about it, and more needs to be done about it. I think the main thing that needs to be done with it is, like you said, let's do something about reducing the number of animals that are being raised to be killed.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's essential.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's an easy solution. Obviously, there are going to be phenomenal complications in actually making that happen. But it just drives me crazy when so-called solutions don't get to the heart of the problem.
Right. It's just Band-Aid after Band-Aid after Band-Aid.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is now time for our favorite portion of the show.
Must be listener shout-out time.
It's listener shout-out.
Just want to give a shout-out to all my fans watching. I love you guys. I love you.
This week's shout-out goes out to Robin Arnold. Robin wrote us a wonderful email. She found our show when Spotify recommended it to her, and we love that.
Yeah, thanks, Spotify.
In her email, Robin disclosed that she doesn't feel she can call herself vegan, as she eats honey, will occasionally eat milk chocolate, and that she might partake in a birthday cake that is not vegan. We think this falls under the imperfect vegan category and feel that if her goal is to live as compassionately as she can and cause the least harm that she can, we have no issue with her claiming to be vegan.
That's right. We're not one of those perfect vegan. We're not perfect vegan people.
No.
If you want to call yourself vegan, call yourself vegan. You're doing your best.
That's right.
Yes. Thank you so much for your wonderful email, Robin. And thank you so much for listening. Please send us your t-shirt size and address so we can send you a Compassion and Cucumbers swag bag. You can either text us using the link in our show notes. Be sure to include your name and note that we can't respond to those texts. Or you can email us at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com or simply DM us on Instagram or Facebook.
And for the rest of you out there, if you would like a listener shout out, simply email us at compassionandcucumbers@gmail.com, DM us on Instagram or Facebook, or use the link in our show notes to send us a text.
Please do. Thank you, everybody that has reached out since we mentioned in last week's episode that we had run out of listener shout outs. So many of you have responded, and that's what we want.
Yes.
Yeah.
The call to action was successful.
Yes.
We called, you acted.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
And that call to action is open-ended.
Perpetually.
Yes. It's in perpetuity. You have that call to action. If you listen and you haven't, contact us. Let us know you listen and tell us a little bit about yourself. I guess it's time to wrap this baby up. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to the show and leave a review on your favorite podcast app, and subscribe to our YouTube. Also, be sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram for updates about the show, pictures of all the vegan food we find, and a bunch of other stuff. If you want to get news about upcoming episodes, you can do that by subscribing to our weekly newsletter at our website, which is compassionandcucumbers.com.
And with that, it's time to sign off. You have just listened to episode 218 of the Compassion and Cucumbers podcast, and there's nothing left to say but where cukes and compassion are always the fashion. On the podcast.
Thanks, James.
Have a great week, everyone.
We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
We love you.
Take care of each other.
Bye.
Bye.
The end.
Bird flu hitting a Wisconsin. About.
And Sean Connery makes his way to the podcast.
Okay, let's try that. I know. I'm kidding.